As a child, I always dreaded the approach of Halloween. The chill in the air, the rustling leaves, and the eerie orange glow of pumpkins sent shivers down my spine. But this Halloween, unlike any other, would forever haunt my nightmares. It was a crisp October afternoon when I received an unexpected invitation from my friend, Sarah. She lived in a decrepit mansion on the outskirts of our small town. For years, people had whispered about the strange occurrences at her home, but I never believed the tales. Sarah assured me that this Halloween would be different, filled with surprises and thrills, and I couldn't resist the temptation. Little did I know, it would be a decision I'd come to regret. I arrived at Sarah's mansion as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, ominous shadows across the sprawling, overgrown garden. The house itself was a monstrous, dilapidated structure, its ivy-covered walls appearing to clutch at the peeling paint, as if the very building were trying to escape the ravages of time. Sarah greeted me at the door with a sinister grin, her eyes glinting in the dim light. "You're in for a real treat tonight," she whispered. I followed her into the mansion, my unease growing with each creaking floorboard and every flickering candle that illuminated our path. The air inside was musty and chilled, as if the house itself had absorbed the horrors of its history. Portraits of stern-faced ancestors lined the walls, their eyes following our every move, and the occasional gust of wind rattled the ancient windows. As we descended into the dimly lit basement, my heart pounded in my chest, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. In the center of the room lay a large, ornate mirror, its surface covered in a layer of grime and dust. Sarah handed me a cloth and whispered, "Help me clean it." Reluctantly, I joined her, wiping away the years of neglect from the mirror's glass. As we worked, our reflections slowly emerged, but something was off. My reflection was grinning manically, its eyes filled with malice, while Sarah's image seemed to weep tears of blood. I stumbled back, dropping the cloth in shock. "What is this?" I stammered. Sarah cackled, her laughter echoing through the basement. "Welcome to the mirror realm," she declared. "On Halloween night, the spirits trapped within the mirror come to life, and we can communicate with them." Fear gripped me as I looked at the mirror, its glass rippling like a pond's surface after someone had thrown in a stone. Figures emerged, shadowy, ethereal shapes that swirled within the glass. And as they solidified, their features twisted into grotesque, horrifying forms. One, a spectral child with hollow eyes, reached out as if to grab me, and I stumbled away in terror. "We have to go back," I urged Sarah, but she merely shook her head. "We can't leave now," she said. "We have to see this through." My protests fell on deaf ears, and I had no choice but to stay by her side as we watched the horrors unfold in the mirror. The spirits whispered dark secrets and promised untold power, but they coded their words in deceit and malevolence. They told of a hidden door within the mansion, one that led to a realm of unspeakable darkness. Sarah's obsession with these spirits grew with each passing hour, and I watched helplessly as she became more and more entranced by their promises. She had always been drawn to the supernatural, but this was different. She neglected her own well-being, staying up for days on end to communicate with the spirits. She grew gaunt and haggard, her eyes dark and sunken, and the once vibrant woman I knew seemed to wither away before my very eyes. One fateful night, as Halloween approached, Sarah claimed to have made a breakthrough. She was convinced that the mirror was the key to unlocking the hidden door, and she was determined to enter the realm beyond. I begged her to reconsider, but her obsession had consumed her entirely. She believed that whatever lay on the other side would give her power beyond her wildest dreams. With a sense of dread, I followed her through the mansion, into a long-forgotten chamber hidden behind a tapestry. The room was adorned with strange symbols, and a massive, ornate door covered in arcane inscriptions loomed at its far end. The mirror spirits seemed to guide her every move, their whispered words growing louder as we approached. Sarah began chanting in an ancient language, her voice echoing through the chamber, and the door shuddered. Slowly, it creaked open, revealing a pitch-black void on the other side. The air grew colder, and a bone-chilling wind swept through the room. I reached for Sarah, desperate to pull her back, but she was drawn into the darkness. The mirror spirits howled with delight as the door slammed shut behind her, leaving me alone in the chamber. I could hear Sarah's frantic screams from the other side, begging for help, but there was nothing I could do. The spirits circled the mirror, their malevolent laughter ringing in my ears. I fled the mansion, never to return, haunted by the horrors I had witnessed. The town eventually forgot about Sarah and her mansion, chalking it up to yet another spooky legend of Halloween. But I knew the truth. I knew my friend was lost forever in the mirror realm, a prisoner of the spirits she had so foolishly summoned. To this day, I can't look in a mirror without feeling a cold, sinister presence just beyond the glass. And every Halloween, as the chill in the air returns and the leaves rustle in the wind, I am reminded of that dreadful night, and I shudder, knowing that the mirror realm still hungers for souls to claim.
Halloween was always a time for scares and thrills, but nothing in my life could have prepared me for the horror that awaited me on that fateful night. It had been a typical October evening, and my buddies and I had visited an old, abandoned asylum that sat on the outskirts of our town. The rumors about the place were chilling, stories of tortured souls and malevolent spirits that had endured decades of suffering. We laughed off the tales as mere superstitions and thought it would be the perfect setting for a Halloween adventure. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we made our way to the asylum. The place was massive, its towering, decrepit walls casting long, eerie shadows in the dim light. We armed ourselves with flashlights and cautiously pushed open the rusted gates, the screech of metal on metal making my skin crawl. We knew it was trespassing, but the thrill of exploration overwhelmed our better judgment. The asylum's interior was a dark labyrinth of rotting corridors and shattered windows. Graffiti-covered walls told the stories of countless visitors who had come before us, each attempting to leave their mark on the haunting place. The air inside was heavy with the stench of decay and dampness, and a bone-chilling cold seemed to seep into our very bones. As we ventured deeper into the asylum, our laughter faded into tense silence. The oppressive atmosphere was suffocating, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching us from the shadows. I regretted our decision, but didn't want to appear weak in front of my friends. In the heart of the asylum, we stumbled upon a room that differed from the others. It was almost untouched by time, and its walls were adorned with strange symbols and eerie paintings. In the center of the room stood a large, ornate mirror, its glass still pristine despite the surrounding decay. One of my friends, Mark, approached the mirror and examined the symbols etched into the frame. As he touched them, the mirror shimmered with an otherworldly glow. Mark stepped back in shock, but it was too late. The mirror's surface rippled like water and shadowy figures emerged from within. My heart pounded in my chest as I watched, frozen in fear. The figures solidified, revealing themselves to be the tortured souls of the asylum's past. Their eyes were filled with pain and despair, and they reached out towards us with spectral hands. One spirit, a woman in tattered clothing, spoke in a voice that sent shivers down my spine. "Help us," she pleaded, her voice echoing through the room. "Release us from this torment." Mark, possessed by a morbid curiosity, reached out to the mirror and his hand passed through the glass as if it were a mere illusion. The spirits pulled him in, and he disappeared into the mirror's depths, leaving nothing but a haunting scream that still haunts my nightmares. My other friends and I fled in terror, leaving the asylum behind. We never spoke of that night again, and the authorities found no trace of Mark. He was simply gone, vanished without a trace. As the years passed, I couldn't shake the guilt and the fear that Mark's fate had been my fault, that my desire to appear brave and unafraid had led us to that cursed mirror. The asylum was eventually demolished, but the mirror remained an ominous relic of that horrific night. Every Halloween, I can't help but think of Mark, and I know that the mirror still hungers for souls to claim. I have never forgotten the torment in the spirit's eyes or Mark's desperate last scream. In my heart, I know that the asylum's secrets will never truly be buried, and the horror that dwells within the mirror still waits for the next unsuspecting soul to cross its path.
Halloween had always been a special night for me, a time of candy, costumes, and spooky tales by the campfire. But as I would soon discover, there are horrors lurking in the shadows, even during the most beloved of holidays. It was my senior year in high school, and my friends and I were determined to make this Halloween unforgettable. We had heard whispers about a mysterious, haunted house at the edge of town, a place where the bravest souls ventured for the ultimate fright. With a mixture of excitement and trepidation, we tested our mettle and visit the notorious Mortimer House. The rumors surrounding Mortimer House were as chilling as they were enticing. Some claimed it was cursed, while others insisted unspeakable horrors occurred within its walls. But we were teenagers, fearless and full of bravado, and we believed ourselves invincible. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we stood before the looming mansion. Its dark, brooding silhouette seemed to absorb the very light around it, and the wind whispered through the overgrown trees in an eerie, haunting chorus. The entrance was adorned with ominous, flickering candles, like an invitation to the otherworldly. We pushed open the creaking doors and stepped into the inky darkness of Mortimer House. The air was heavy with the scent of dampness and decay, and our flashlights cast feeble beams that barely pierced the gloom. We navigated through narrow, winding hallways, our footsteps echoing ominously against the rotting wood. As we explored deeper into the mansion, I felt a growing unease. The stories we had heard suddenly seemed less like superstitions and more like warnings. Shadows moved in the corners of my vision, and faint whispers of spectral voices seemed to taunt us. In one particularly desolate chamber, we found a massive, ornate mirror. Its glass was marred with cracks and grime, but its frame was adorned with intricate carvings that depicted grotesque scenes of suffering and despair. It was the centerpiece of a room that seemed to resonate with a malevolent energy. My friends gathered around the mirror, their faces filled with a mix of curiosity and fear. I reluctantly joined them, and together we cleaned the mirror's surface to reveal a hidden message etched into the glass. The message, in a language I couldn't understand, seemed to beckon us deeper into the house. As we read the message aloud, a shiver passed through the room. The mirror's surface rippled like a dark pond, and from within, a host of ghostly figures emerged. They had hollow, sorrowful eyes and gnarled, skeletal hands that reached out for us. Their lamenting voices filled the chamber, and their message was clear. Help us escape. One by one, my friends were drawn to the mirror, their reflections warping into twisted, nightmarish versions of themselves before they, too, were pulled into the mirror's depths, vanishing without a trace. The chamber was filled with their frantic screams, but there was nothing I could do to save them. With my heart pounding and my sanity hanging by a thread, I fled the cursed mansion, never looking back. Mortimer House stood as an ominous sentinel in the dark, a place I could never forget, but vowed never to return. To this day, every Halloween fills me with a sense of dread. The chill in the air and the rustling leaves remind me of that night when I lost my friends to the horrors within Mortimer House. The mirror still stands, a sinister gateway to a realm of suffering, and I can't help but wonder if it hungers for more souls to claim.